Good morning.
Good morning or midday.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're
Ooh, sorry, my coffee maker's making noise.
that's okay. So we should have you and me and three others. So the main thing I
Okay.
want you to do is to meet Chris. Chris is our CEO at the Bone Factory, and you've already met Dinesh, and then Andrea she's our IP person, and she will
Okay.
yeah. So that's kind of it's a virtual incubator is what it is. So we just bring in people. We help surgeons turn ideas into products, and we just bring in people as needed, like yourself.
Mhm.
And we don't have any money, but we have equity.
Yep, I figured.
Yeah. So here comes
It's
Andrea.
normal for this stage.
Yeah. Here comes Andrea.
Hello.
Hey, Andrea.
Morning or afternoon or wherever you are.
Morning, yeah, noon. How
Yeah.
about you? Where are you based?
I'm based out of Seattle, so it's still morning for me.
Cool.
Cool. Come on.
Who else is joining us?
Chris and Dinesh.
Okay.
So um, everybody's busy. I talked to Chris yesterday, I think. He was coming in and out of calls. Dinesh too.
Same here. Busy Friday, I guess. It's a beautiful painting in the background.
Thank you.
Yeah, so anyway, so Andrea, we need Jessica on the team if we're gonna figure this out. I mean, Dinesh and I we realized we were so far off the reservation that we couldn't even get back to the reservation. So
Yes.
Sounds like Jessica has some good experience with it. So
yeah, she knows
Mhm.
what she's doing.
I've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
yeah.
It would be the same thing if Jessica was developing a foot and ankle, mechanical product.
Right. I'd have a much harder time. I'd have to
Yeah,
call,
total ankle
phone a
replacement.
friend for that one.
Yeah. Well, Dinesh can do that in his sleep, so
Yeah.
that's funny. Let me ping Chris and Dinesh.
So Jessica, you're originally from Seattle?
Originally from Boston, actually.
Okay.
So.
How did you end up there?
Well, when I was in college, I went to Cornell in upstate New York. My parents moved to California.
Okay.
And so, it's one of those things you call home freshman year and they're like, oh, by the way, right? And so I actually followed them to California, spent 17 years in California before getting priced out. I have three teenage sons, and 1,200 square feet just wasn't cutting it.
Where were you in California?
San Jose.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I lived in San Diego for a while. Very expensive.
I was just there.
Oh.
I lived in Orange County for 4 years. Yeah, I didn't try to buy a house. I just rented because I knew. Hey, Chris.
How we doing?
Good.
Good, good.
So we're waiting for Dinesh, but yeah, anyway, uh, we can start talking. Dinesh and I have already had a call or two with Jessica, so
Okay.
yeah,
Great.
we're up to speed. So
Okay.
Chris is our CEO at the Bone Factory, and he handles all things. I mean, he understands
Mhm.
M&A and corporate structure and equity and legal and all the stuff that we don't understand. Um, so
That's that's the
yeah,
easy stuff.
no, that's the hard stuff for me.
That's the easy stuff.
Yeah, he understands valuations and oh man, I had a call with a VC yesterday and man, he just went over uh, preferences
Oh yeah.
and fun,
Mhm.
the funds they were raising and it was just I had to get out a calculator to figure everything out.
Who was that, Tiger?
It was, let me remember. It was Andy Reid from, I think it's called Medical 3A. Here,
Huh.
here, hang on.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was fascinating. I mean, I'll talk to you about it another time, but
Yeah.
they've got a Andy Reid. Um, they have a venture studio model, and they've returned 25x on their investments
Wow.
in the last 7 years. And all they do is wearables. It's all data and wearables, and they've got he couldn't tell me exactly, but they have a deep partnership with Apple, and they're doing fetal monitors and all kinds of stuff. And they've got this thing in the operating room. They've got this new startup called Vision OR, where you just stick a phone or an iPad in the OR, and it literally figures out efficiency and gives the hospital or ASC a dashboard on what they need to do to do cases faster. It's fascinating. You just
Wow.
go to visionor.com. Um, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was really interesting.
Yeah.
All right, I don't see Dinesh. We'll get started. We don't have him to spin the model around, but all right. So anyway, Dinesh and I had a couple calls with Jessica, and we need her badly. I was telling Andrea we're far off the reservation, and we need to get back. We need to get
Yeah.
somebody. So why don't you? I don't know how to start. Jessica, why don't you tell you did a really good write up with that email, but why don't you sort of summarize that and tell us what you could do for us?
Sure. Yeah. I've been in medical devices about 25 years now, and most of that time has been with balloon devices. Not all of it, but all of it has been with extrusion, injection molding, balloon forming. I've specified equipment, I've specified designs, and primarily what I am is a problem solver,
Mm.
right? So um, it just happened early in my career. The company I was brought into tried and failed to launch the product, and I stepped in and I turned it around and got it out the door. And once you've done that once, well, everybody wants you to keep doing it again. So
That's the
I've
hard
kind of
part.
made a career out of doing that. The first thing I did when I walked into Siemens was they had a recall on one of their catheter products. And in the middle of a pandemic, trapped in my house with three boys, I had to do the root cause analysis, the corrective action, and get that product back on the market, which I did. And so, just people come to me and say, fix this, and I fix it. So when I saw the balloon, I said, oh, that needs to be fixed. So, happy to help you guys. I've been thinking about it. I probably disclosed a little too much on our call with Dinesh the other day because I redesigned the product for you. Um, and with that sort of design that I proposed, we could really get off-the-shelf parts, put them
Mhm.
together, start doing some preliminary feedback with physicians, and um, maybe some animal labs. I know some of what I call super techs in the Bay Area that could basically build anything, and most of them have squirreled away, decommissioned equipment in their garages, and could just build us some prototypes. They probably would want money though. I don't think they work for equity most of the
Yep.
time.
Yep.
But if we can get off-the-shelf parts that are kind of close to what we need, then we can refine the specifications to come up with something that really is a product
Yep.
and iterate on that. So, that's sort of where I am in my thinking.
Yep.
The question is, of course, where are you in your thinking and what sort of engagement do you want with me, right? Because I can have a little engagement where I give you a couple design options and answer a few questions, and then I go on my merry way and you guys go on yours. Other options would be I stay engaged much longer as a technical advisor and help with things like what are your predicate devices? What's your regulatory strategy? What is the design control requirements that we're going to have to comply with, right? Much more depth and involvement.
Yeah. If I were to venture, Tiger and Andrea, I would say the latter rather than.
Yeah,
Okay.
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, so I mean, so my 2 cents are, yeah, it was a complex design that had many potential failure modes, to say the least. And the prototyping iteration on that design was going to be, as you noted, very expensive.
Mhm.
And one of those where you could get, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars deep and have to go back to
Yes.
design. So, I think that's where we were. What I would ideally like to do, and, we're going to have to, I think, manage the physician a little bit, is do a proper design input,
Yes.
a proper DIR,
I
and
have a lot of questions.
yeah, have him opine on, what exactly, get him out of design phase and get him into what do we need this to do? What are our limitations?
Mhm.
What kind of freedom do we have? And then,
Mhm.
of course, your understanding, having worked with balloons and medical devices for a long time, you're going to understand, the IP landscape and help Andrea with that, and also
Mhm.
predicate devices from a regulatory standpoint.
Mhm.
What we can leverage, what we should stay away from.
Mhm.
That sort of stuff. I think all of that would be extremely helpful. I haven't done a lot of balloon work, but I know it's problematic. The VC firm I worked for, we started Kaifon.
Okay.
That was just taking an angioplasty balloon and doing it in the spine.
Right.
But I know a lot of work went into that balloon design and all
Mhm.
of that stuff. So I think, yeah, a more detailed engagement is necessary, and working with the physician to, get him out of physicians are very bright, smart people, but when they start to design stuff, it's the old unobtainium
Mhm. Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think that's really what we need to do, is go back to the drawing board, get proper design inputs,
Mhm.
and then go from there.
Yeah. Knowing what they're doing today and why it's not working and what alternatives there are. Again, if there's any predicates, right? A de novo device is a very different story than a 510(k) device, right? So
Yeah,
looking into that and yeah, understanding the problem, right? If you're a lot of times when they show images of the heart, right, it looks like there are these empty chambers, right? The chambers are not empty. There's tons of stuff in there, right?
right.
And so when people are designing catheters, they think they're going into this empty space, and it's like, no, 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 right?
Yeah.
And I don't know enough about shoulders to know what's in the way.
Yeah. I think you will find the shoulder problem a lot easier. To be honest with you, this is, it's carpentry,
Yep.
not fluid dynamics. Uh,
Yep.
but I think, the different forces required to, uh, basically dislocate the shoulder in the direction we want to,
Yep.
are going to be required. So I suspect we'll need a stronger balloon at the inferior position, and kind of softer ones at the
Proximal. Yeah.
superior
Yeah.
Mhm.
portion. But that's for you to determine. And I think that kind of three balloon design, and also I think from a regulatory standpoint, um, it's not an implant. So this is a class one, I would argue. That would be my argument.
I
Uh,
don't think you're going to get class one, but it's certainly not class three. It's probably a
no,
class
I
two.
mean, yeah, I mean, it's basically a, retractor, a balloon retractor,
Yeah.
more than anything else. So I don't know from a regulatory standpoint what it would be, but it's not a permanent implant. So
Mhm.
that's helpful to us as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would suggest we talk to a regulatory specialist about it, right? That's
Yeah.
most catheters are class two.
Yeah, so
I
what
know.
I've seen in the patent art, Chris, you're right, that some of them are called retractors.
Yeah.
Similar-ish design.
Ish. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So
that's good that it's actually good that
yeah.
there's a little bit of prior art because that
Mhm.
gives us a pathway.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah, I have literally spent 5 minutes looking at it. So the more,
Okay.
there is one company that did an implant, a subacromial implant. Um, Obviously that was class two, because it stays in. But so there is prior art in specifically in the shoulder for balloons, so we can leverage that too.
Is it
Okay.
Voluminous or
I can't remember the name of it. It was that the Israeli company
oh that's
that
Orthos.
Ron
Yeah,
and Lee did.
Orthospace. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So they basically put in, I think it's more or less tissue expander is basically what it was. That they
Mm,
put in, left it in for a long time, and it sort of dissolved and went away eventually.
mm.
Yeah.
But it opened, yeah, it pushed
Yeah.
the down.
Between the cuff, the supraspinatus and the
Yeah.
acromion.
Okay.
So here I've got some questions right off the bat, Jessica. First of all, do you have a non-compete at Siemens? Can you work on this? Uh,
Non-competes are not enforceable anymore, so
oh, that's
it's irrelevant.
perfect.
And Siemens does not, aside from taking pictures, does not compete in the orthopedic
All
space.
right, that's
So,
easy. Okay,
um, so I don't expect any difficulty there.
good.
And I'm sort of taking a don't ask, don't tell approach.
Mhm.
I do want to be clear that I do really like my job at Siemens, and I tend to continue doing it. So I'll be doing this on the margins.
Yep. Yep.
Well, you can
What?
create an LLC or something on the side, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
What about IP? I know a lot of these companies, we certainly do in our small companies, any IP you create belongs to the company. So in your employment with Siemens, is there any IP barriers that we would need to, hoops we'd have to jump through to keep you out of trouble?
Let me check on that.
Okay.
See if I can figure that out. I don't remember signing anything like that when I joined, but
Yep.
I can double check.
Yeah.
usually, yeah, usually there's a little bit like technology that also the company
Mhm.
also does, but you do want to check that language.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. They want whatever's in your head.
yeah.
Basically.
Um, so
And
yeah,
also if yeah, it also depends of like if Jessica's name is going to be on any IP that we create, right? Because if it's
Mhm.
not, then that I don't see how that could be then.
If you're patenting that three balloon design, unfortunately, my name's going to be on it,
Yeah.
right? Because you need to attribute all the inventors.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
that's true.
Yeah.
It's the origin of the idea. Whoever had the origin of the idea. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Um, okay. So you're interested in working with us? It sounds like.
sure, it'd be fun.
Yeah, and we need you, and this would be fun. So let's talk about next steps. So, um, you know, what do we need to do? Simplified balloons. I think Dinesh asked for samples of like a spherical balloon, I think. Is that it's going to be shipped to him and Dr. Weiss just to play with. Um, but that's the only thing we've done so far. And
Mhm.
then
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, my first and most obvious question is, what's the size of this cannula that this is going through? What other instruments are going to be either in this cannula or in another cannula, but operating around these
Hmm.
balloons? And based on that, then we can spec extrusion sizes, and there should be some off-the-shelf or relatively inexpensive extrusion samples we can get from a supplier to start putting stuff together. And, I could basically sketch out some instructions on how to build one of these things and go from there. User feedback is going to be really important because
yeah.
we can make this dead simple, or we can make it a little bit more complicated with some bells and whistles, or really complicated if we wanted to. But I wouldn't recommend going the really complicated route out of the gate.
Agreed. I think, this, and I think this is where the design inputs come into
Mhm.
play. We need to sit down with Dr. Weiss and do a proper, design input requirement document. Bit specifically, it's an 8 to 10 millimeter cannula, depending on the
Yeah.
size of what we're putting in. I don't Tiger, this can't go through the visor, right? Portal. This can't go from up here. It's got to come from
Yeah,
either anterior or
Yeah, I
posterior.
think it's going from the anterior side.
Anterior, yeah.
Yeah, I think he said he's going to make two portholes and place the device to the anterior side. We also have um, an entry from, I think, the slightly posterior to reach the labrum.
Yeah,
But
posterior avoiding the deltoid.
yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, so two, probably three working portal. He'll probably have to have three working portals because he'll need the balloon portal. And depending on the size of the tubes of those balloons, there might not be much working space in an 8 millimeter or 10 millimeter cannula. Um, Anterior, so he'll probably have maybe another anterior and a posterior for the scope and instrumentation. So I'm guessing minimum, absolutely minimum two, but I'm guessing three.
Mhm.
So we can have visualization and a working portal too, because I'm not sure how much work you'll be able to get done with those with the
Mhm.
tails of the balloons sticking out of a portal.
I mean, we can get this down to, 3, 4 millimeter device size for insertion. So,
Yeah.
um,
that'll fit in any ID of
Yeah.
a regular cannula. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think the difficult part will be the positioning of and manipulation of the balloons once they're in the joint. Um,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know,
and that's
I think,
where the bells and whistles come in, right?
yeah.
If we want to make it steerable, we can, right? It's doable. I work on steerable catheters all the time,
Hmm.
but for Rev 1, maybe they use the instruments to position the balloons where they want, and then they inflate it, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
that's what I would do for a V1,
Yeah.
right? Because then you're talking a 3 lumen extrusion and then single lumen extrusions and glue everything together.
Hmm.
Right? It's,
Right.
it's really very simple. You got to put a manifold on it, but you can buy off the shelf parts to do that too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So in one of the emails, Dr. Weiss mentioned the inner diameter of the purple cannula, which he uses,
mhm.
is used for introducing instruments into the joint, is about 7 millimeters in diameter.
Oh,
Mhm.
He
that's
also uses
huge.
a scorpion
Like
suture
when you
catheter.
compare it to the vascular space.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the scorpion suture catheter that he uses is 16 millimeters with the jaw fully open.
Oh,
So
wow.
he
All
uses the
right.
suture catheter to one side, and then he introduces this through the side.
Yeah.
So maybe kind of what the call with him one more time, just so we can kind of understand. Because I'm kind of thinking about how you're going to lay the implant in, right? Once you insert it through the cannula, how would you lay down the device? How do you open it up before you
Mhm.
inflate it? Is it
Well,
automatically
yeah.
inflates, or you have to
So
spread it out?
I mean, you have a manifold on the device that's you inject saline into the balloons through. And you definitely want to use saline, not air, because saline gets it's less compressible. You get more pressure. And plus, getting air into the joint is not a huge deal compared to like what happens if you do it in the vasculature, but you still don't want a ton of air in there. Saline's not so bad if you get a leak.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's you inflate it with saline, and the advantage of using balloons is that if you need a bigger balloon, you inflate it all the way, and if you don't need as much space, you can inflate it a little bit less. Uh, and the conformance of the balloon. If it's a stretchy balloon, then it's really kind of nice and smooth. If it's a non-stretchy balloon, it's kind of wrinkly and ugly, but I'm not sure that matters, right? So, as long as it's creating the space that's required. And so that force that's required to distend the joint is going to be really important.
Yeah, that was
But
my
like angioplasty balloons are hundreds of PSI, right?
yeah.
And people make them all day and all night. So very, very achievable.
Yeah, and the how much force is going to be required? Is it a syringe for the saline, or do we have to power that saline?
Uh, we'd have to try it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Some of it depends on actually the size of the syringe you use.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
You can actually create quite a bit of PSI depending on the bore of the
Yeah.
syringe.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I do recall Dr. Weiss saying for positioning of the balloon, the balloon will go in anteriorly, but he has another portal posteriorly where he can actually pull it. He can pull it using another instrument before he puts the camera in and everything,
Mhm.
and sort of put it in the right place before it is expanded. So that's another option. We have he called it the push-pull technique.
All right. And like, is he working at all under fluoro? Does this need to be radio opaque that they can see it on X-ray, or are they just using a camera?
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
just using a
camera.
scope.
It's an
Okay.
optical camera. Yeah, there's no barium would just obstruct the view, so there's no contrast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say next steps are get a call together with Dr. Weiss
Yeah.
and really,
Well,
define
I'm
the
sorry to
product.
say, but next step is to get a contract for me.
Sorry, yeah. Um, have we had the equity discussion with Dr. Weiss yet?
No, no,
Okay, okay. So we'll have to do that and get a contract in place and move forward from there. Okay.
yes. Yeah, I think, and then once we get that, we'll have the real inputs discussion with Dr. Weiss. The good news is, you haven't met him yet, but he's very detail-oriented person. He's very analytical, very detail-oriented, which is good when you're talking inputs.
Mhm.
A lot of surgeons, a lot of orthopedic surgeons are just sort of caveman, it's like, give me something that feels like this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my uncle's a retired orthopedic surgeon. I'll let him know that's what you think.
Oh, that's funny. So anyway, okay, so contract and then a call with the surgeon going over design inputs, and then we're off to the races.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So next Saturday, I fly to Korea for a week. So I'll be 12 hours different or something like that. And um, my communication will be much more limited because I'll have my work equipment, not my home equipment.
Right.
But I will have my personal phone, so I can be reached that way. The But after that, it seems, knock on wood, they'll actually let me stay home this summer. So I should have more availability then.
Great. Great.
So,
Yeah, I think it'll take, about a week or so to get the contracting together anyway. So
okay, yeah, that'll be no problem. And I'll check in with my HR partner and just make sure that I'll phrase it as, I'm a technical advisor to a startup, and I want to make sure that anything I work with them on is not going to, create conflict of interest, and make sure that that.
Tell them it's an orthopedic instrument. There's no imaging.
Of
Yeah.
course, yeah, yeah. No, of course, I'll be clear that it is
Yeah,
non-competitive, right? It's
yeah,
simply not something that Siemens does.
right. And also the IP side, just clarify.
Yep,
Yep.
perfect. So yeah, you have something to do on your side. Good.
yep.
Great.
All right, sounds good.
Let's see,
Awesome.
any other housekeeping? I think we've got your personal email. Yeah. Chris will probably need your personal address at some point.
Yep,
Yeah.
no problem.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else.
All right, sounds good.
All right, this is great. Thanks. Welcome to the team.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, guys.
This will be fun. I don't get to get hands-on that much anymore.
I'm sorry for joining late. I was presenting something, it ran over, I couldn't cut off.
No problem. I know how it goes.
Yeah.
Dinesh promised you not to show that stupid 3 balloon barbell thing anymore.
Right.
That's right.
All right, well, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Have a
Great.
good
Take care.
weekend. Bye.
Have a great weekend, guys. Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
great weekend.